My husband felt completely good about himself being relied upon by his ex-girlfriend, who had become single, and her daughter. In the end, he prioritized his ex-girlfriend's daughter over our own son and started verbally abusing me when I criticized him for it. Things had reached a point where I didn't need my husband Bobby anymore. Having made up my mind, I decided to get rid of my husband. Of course, I left my good-for-nothing husband with a parting gift of proper revenge. So, what happened to my husband and his ex-girlfriend after that? My husband prioritized his ex-girlfriend, who had become single, and her daughter. Having decided I didn't need such a husband, I got rid of him. My oldest son, who's 4 years old, has become so dependable lately that I am extremely impressed with him every day. After meals, he carries the bowls to the sink and then wipes the table. Most of all, what helps me the most is how good he is at keeping his younger brother happy. When my 1-year-old's younger son is crying loudly while I'm busy, he immediately comes to soothe him. He makes funny faces, dances, pats his younger brother gently, and cuddles with him with love. I find my eldest son's bravery so endearing. He is my daily source of strength. Now I am single and raising my children while working. So honestly, there are times when it's really tough, but with such adorable sons by my side, I feel like I have to do my best as their mom. He's such a thoughtful son. It's amazing that he's so dependable at just 4 years old. He has a bright future ahead of him. A single mother with a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old? That must be tough. What's the father doing? My older son has grown so much now that he's 4, but he definitely went through the terrible twos and the teenager phase. He would throw tantrums, lie down on the sidewalk, and refuse to get up, eat, or sleep. There was also a period of severe regression. But now he seems to have settled down. Maybe he sensed how hard it was for me as a single mom. Or maybe as a child he picked up on something from the harsh words my ex-husband said. The father of my kids, my ex-husband, turned into a complete loser. Today, I'll talk about my journey to divorcing that man. I'd love for everyone to hear this story. I got married at 30, had my older son at 31, and my younger son at 34. I had heard it was tough, but raising 2 kids is really challenging. The difference between having 1 and 2 kids is huge. I felt it deeply. When they both cried at the same time, I would go into a mini panic. Honestly, I don't even remember how I managed to handle it at all. I understand. Even with just 1 more child, life becomes tens of times more difficult. Did the loser husband not help with childcare? Is that why you got divorced? Absolutely. My older son regressed to baby-like behavior, and my newborn was so fussy. Every day I was frantically taking care of them, but I managed because I love my 2 kids so much. Then there was my husband. When childcare got really hectic, he stopped helping completely. Actually, he started pulling away from childcare gradually when our older son hit the terrible twos. I think he found it easier to handle when our son was a cute, quiet baby. But as soon as he started having his own will and became more demanding, my husband just ran away from the responsibility. Wow, what a terrible father. It's a difficult but adorable stage. And Monica, wasn't that right after you gave birth? A husband who runs away from childcare at such a time is just awful. Well, there was another reason why my husband pulled away from childcare and lost interest in our family. During that time, my husband fell in love. The object of his affection was Abby, a former colleague and ex-girlfriend. Abby got married to someone other than my husband 6 years ago and left the company when she did, but it seems she got divorced and came back to the company as a part-timer. Then she and my husband reconnected, and it seems they hit it off again. You might wonder how I found out about my husband's affair. Well, my husband, in his excitement, told me all about it. Didn't he have any friends to confide in? He ended up telling me everything. When Abby returned to the company as a part-timer,
"My former colleague Abby came back. Wow, it's nostalgic. Abby hasn't changed at all. Even though Abby has a daughter, she doesn't look like a tired mom at all. Meanwhile, Monica, you've kind of let yourself go lately. It's amazing how different people can be, even when they're both moms."
He said all this out of the blue. At that time, I had just given birth to our younger son, and our older son was in the midst of the terrible twos and regressing to baby-like behavior. Looking good was the last thing on my mind. Wow, your husband is the worst. That's not something you say to a wife who's doing her best with childcare. You sometimes hear stories about men like this. If he wants his wife to look good, he should help with the childcare. Exactly. I'm glad you understand. I told my husband exactly what everyone is saying, and then he said,
"Come on, I was just stating the facts. Abby's a single mom and still manages to look that good. Monica, maybe you're just slacking off a bit too much. Don't get all hysterical just because I hit a sore spot."
Can you believe he said that? Those words almost made me lose it, but I didn't want to argue in front of the kids, so I decided to stay silent. Did my husband think I agreed with him, or did he think he had won the argument? After that, he kept talking about Abby to me non-stop.
Today, Abby was wearing clothes that really showed off her figure. You'd never guess she had a child with that body.
He would say these creepy old man things.
Today, at lunch, Abby and I were reminiscing about the old days. It felt like I was time traveling.
He would talk about it in this dreamy way. I was just sitting there thinking, what am I even listening to? But I was so overwhelmed with childcare that even though I really wanted to call him out on it, I just brushed it off with, yeah, now go play with our older son. More than anything, I just wanted him to participate in childcare. Well, no matter how I asked for his help with our sons, my husband always found some excuse to avoid it. One day, after days like that had gone on for a while, I finally confronted him about it. That day, my husband started talking about Abby as usual, but the content.
Today I met Abby's daughter, Becky, at her house. Becky is so cute. She welcomed me so nicely. She kind of reminded me of myself. Maybe she's my kid. She's already 5 years old now.
It was like this. I couldn't help but react to the story in various ways. I've had things I've wanted to say for a while now. Indeed, this time I can't just let this slide. Why was he even at Abby's house? And the bombshell that Becky might be his daughter, isn't that shocking? I didn't know where to start to verify anything, but first of all, why did you go to Abby's house? What were you doing there? And what's this about Abby's daughter being possibly your child? Is that some kind of joke? She's just a former colleague, right? I decided to ask these questions. At that time, I didn't even know they were once ex-lovers. Then, in response to this, Bobby said,
Oh, Abby bought some assembly furniture online, but couldn't put it together properly, so I helped her assemble it. They praised me, saying it's good to have a man's touch. And as for Becky, it's still just my speculation. But 6 years ago, Abby was two-timing me. Considering the age, I couldn't help but think, what if? Becky is now 5 years old, so it's possible, right?
He said that. It was then that I learned Abby was his ex-girlfriend. Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt with the assembly furniture incident. But isn't the Becky situation a bit alarming? Yeah, the way your husband put it, does that mean their relationship continued when Abby got pregnant? I was curious about that too, so I asked him more about it. It turns out 6 years ago, Abby suddenly broke up with him one day. And the day after they broke up, Abby announced her retirement from the company. Her partner works for a major trading company. Apparently, it was a shotgun wedding. Well, basically, my husband was two-timed, and he wasn't chosen. That's what it boils down to, right? So my husband and Abby broke up 6 years ago. Abby's daughter is now 5 years old. Given that their relationship overlapped when Abby's pregnancy was discovered, my husband might have thought there was a chance he could be the father, right? I mean, there's certainly a possibility, but after hearing all this, I finally expressed my disapproval to my husband. I told him it's not appropriate to meet up with someone he has such a deep history with. You have your own family now, with children who are definitely yours, I said, making it clear to him, but my husband responded with determination.
I want to help Abby, who is raising her child on her own. She's a woman I loved in the past. And if Becky is my daughter, then I should take responsibility for that.
He said this with a resolute look in his eyes. I asked him, did Abby tell you that you're the father? If it were me, I would immediately disclose such an important fact to the other person. Even when I pointed that out, my husband,
Abby is a modest woman. She wouldn't suddenly say, take care of your child now. I don't think she would say something like that. Surely not. Maybe she's waiting for me to realize it.
He says something like that. I was appalled by my husband's foolishness. Could it be that your husband thinks Becky is his daughter? Does she really resemble him that much? No, a modest woman wouldn't cheat. Abby seems to be up to something. Yeah, that's right. No matter what I said after that, my husband just yelled at me.
Heartless. Don't you understand people's feelings? If I'm happy, that's all that matters. Whatever anyone says, I'll take responsibility. I have to make them happy.
He started yelling at me like that. He started going to Abby's house without listening to me, trying to stop him. So at that point, I began considering divorce. I thought I couldn't live with a man like that. But could I take their father away from my young sons? Right now I'm on childcare leave, but if I divorce and return to work, can I manage on my own? I felt anxious and agonized over it. I hesitated and hesitated. At that time, I didn't divorce quickly and stayed away from my husband, even though I'm going to regret it so much later. While I was hesitating about divorce, my husband did whatever he wanted. Frequently meeting Abby, he reported that to me.
Today I ate Abby's home-cooked meal. Becky said she wanted to eat with me, which was really cute. She begged for a toy and I bought her a one-piece swimsuit. She was so happy about it. She's just so adorable.
That's how it went. At home, he doesn't do anything to take care of our sons. He listens to Becky's wishes and buys her things, even though he doesn't do anything. I was so frustrated by my husband's awful behavior, and I felt sorry and sad for our sons, so I pleaded with him as much as I could. Our sons are definitely your children, so please show them love properly. You don't even know for sure if Abby's daughter is your child, right? You haven't done a DNA test or anything. It's ridiculous. I said, tears streaming down my face. I didn't want to cry for such a despicable husband. Then my husband.
Huh, you're so annoying. Don't talk about things like DNA testing like it's nothing. You really don't have any kindness in you. I can't be with such a cold person. I'm going to Abby's house for a while. I'll live in Abby's warm home. I'm sure Becky will want her father, me.
He said that decisively. And then he started preparing to leave the house quickly. I no longer had any doubts. I strongly wanted to get divorced. I hesitated a little, but I had gathered evidence that would favor me in the divorce. I had made up my mind to confront him with that evidence. But just before I could confront him with the evidence, he looked at our sons and said this.
If only you boys were a bit cuter, then I would have loved you more. Well, Monica only gave birth to boys, after all. Boys aren't cute. They're noisy and annoying. Well then, see ya. I'm off to my adorable daughter's place. Well, I'll come back like once a month or so.
And then I exploded. I thought, what is he saying to my sons? I felt like I might explode with anger, but I held myself back right here. I was determined to make sure he pays for this in hell. So I didn't say anything as I sent him off, and afterward, I hugged my sons tightly. I'm so glad I gave birth to you boys. I love you so much. You're my treasures, I conveyed. The baby, my youngest son, of course didn't understand anything, but my eldest son, who was 3 years old, clung tightly to me. Even if he couldn't understand everything my husband and I said, I think he somehow felt it. I regretted exposing him to such words. That's just awful. Deliberately hurting children like that? You can't forgive scum like that. Absolutely not. Did you eventually bring up divorce at that time? I think it would have been better for the children if she had just left him immediately. He's such scum. I wanted to leave him right away, but I desperately wanted to get revenge somehow, so I didn't bring up divorce at that time. I wanted to be more prepared before confronting him. About a month later, I demanded divorce through a lawyer, and at the same time I confronted my husband with a certain fact. That really sent him straight to hell. First, when I demanded a divorce from him, of course, I also sought compensation for adultery from him and Abby. At that time, as evidence of the affair, I presented a mountain of photos taken by a detective, including one of Abby meeting with another man besides my husband. I casually slipped that in. Abby was meeting multiple men almost on a daily basis. Among them were photos of her dining with another man with Becky, and photos of them spending time together as if they were a family of 3, including Becky. I had hidden photos capturing such scenes. When my lawyer found these photos, my husband started to panic. It seems he began blaming Abby, who was nearby. They had a heated argument in front of the lawyer for a while.
What's this with these guys? They seem pretty chummy. Ugh, they're even holding hands in this photo.
That's not it. It just looks like that from the angle, but they're just acquaintances. I know a lot of people.
But what about this photo? Having dinner with you, Becky. And this one at the amusement park?
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. We're just acquaintances.
It went something like this. There was a tense moment between the two. At that point, the lawyer promptly played a certain testimony.
I broke up with Abby 6 years ago, but recently she reappeared with a child who seems like mine. I think the kid looks like mine, so I am seriously thinking of marrying Abby. Abby, who I suddenly lost touch with 6 years ago, recently came to see me again with her child. That child must be mine. 6 years ago, I was a freelancer chasing my dream. Abby had gone into hiding so she wouldn't be a burden to me. So I have to make Abby happy this time.
Yikes. Is this like a 24-hour surveillance reality show? Sounds like testimony from someone duped by a scam artist, right? 6 years ago, your husband claimed he was caught in a love triangle, but it seems that was just the tip of the iceberg. It's scary, isn't it? I've been doing some digging myself and realized there are really people like this out there. It's sobering. From what I've found, Abby had relationships with 6 men in the past. Now it seems she's bouncing between 4 of them, including my husband. And of course, she's always with her child, Becky. Abby hasn't outright stated it to anyone, but she seems to have hinted that Becky might be your daughter. It looks like she was milking money from these 4 men. Well, my husband had the highest income among those 4, so Abby might have allowed him into her house. My husband had to pay for meals at Abby's house, utilities, or even money, buy new furniture. It seems like she was squeezing various things out of him. I think he was treated as a complete wallet. Wow, what a villainous woman. But Becky, who was used like that, is really pitiful. She's only 5 years old, so she probably doesn't understand much about it. So who was Becky's father in the end? Your husband? Actually, Becky is Abby's ex-husband's daughter. So the 4 men Abby was involved with were unrelated. Actually, it seems Abby's ex-husband divorced her due to her infidelity, and they had a big fight over Becky's custody at that time. And so Abby said to her ex-husband,
Actually, Becky is not your child, so I can't give you custody. I'm taking this child to her real father's place, so you must not have any more contact with Becky.
She firmly declared this and forcibly brought Becky along. Because Becky was attached to her dad, she repeatedly sought him out, but Abby told her,
You must behave well to stay with your dad. Understand? You must be cute and smile in front of the uncles you meet. Greet them properly. You absolutely must not talk about your dad.
Becky was persuaded by this and obediently followed Abby's instructions. When I found out about that, tears welled up for Becky. She's just a 5-year-old girl. With no one else to rely on except her parents, Becky must have been desperate. Meanwhile, Abby was using Becky in such a cowardly way to live her life. Abby's ex-husband requested a DNA test to confirm his paternity with Becky. He was preparing to become a single father, and had already set up an environment to raise Becky, aiming to reclaim her from Abby. He truly loves Becky and is such a good dad. Abby's ex-husband lent us the DNA test results, which my lawyer then presented to my husband and Abby. When he saw the results, it felt like everything fell apart. He looked at Abby with intense disgust, and it led to a heated argument between them. The details of that argument are too ugly to recount here. In the end, my husband and Abby broke up. Right after that, Abby's ex-husband's lawyer showed up at her place, and Becky was able to return safely to her dad. So now, Abby is apparently living alone, burdened with compensation demands from her ex-husband and me. I actually informed the other men about Abby's true nature, aside from my husband. I heard something about them possibly filing lawsuits against her. Well, I don't really care anymore, since I'm not involved anymore. Oh, I see. Becky was able to go back to her dad's place. That's good to hear. This time you were also involved, but it's heartbreaking that the children got caught up in this. Exactly. Harming children is unforgivable. I hope they never meet again. So did you end up getting divorced after all? After my husband learned about Abby's true nature, he shamelessly said to me,
I was deceived, but now I see clearly. After all, I only have Monica and the kids.
He begged and pleaded, but my heart didn't budge an inch. In fact, divorce alone didn't satisfy my anger, so I also imposed social sanctions on my husband. I sent reports of his and Abby's infidelity to his company and his parents' home. This led to my husband receiving a pay cut at work and being cut off by his parents.
Why would you do such a thing? You're being so cruel to me. My life has been ruined by terrible women.
He kept blaming others right to the end. It's all his own fault, though. With the help of a lawyer, I finalized the divorce and am now living as a single mother. I am very happy with my 2 sons, but I have some concerns about my oldest son. As I mentioned before, he's now 4 years old. He's become such a good child since I became single. These are heartful words my husband directed at my eldest son. I'm worried they might be affecting him. I'm concerned that he might think he won't be loved unless he behaves perfectly, and I'm unsure how to handle that. It's a mystery whether the eldest son understood the husband's hurtful words. From now on, if Monica loves him with all her heart, everything will be fine. I think maybe he naturally became a good boy after seeing his beloved mom working so hard. It'll be okay. Everyone, thank you. That's right, we shouldn't think dark thoughts. And they're my precious children, so as long as I love them with all my heart, everything will be fine, right? And with my love, I'll embrace any hurt hearts and any tough times ahead. Let's wrap all of those up with love. Mom's love is powerful, you know? Just kidding. Thank you all for listening. I will definitely make my sons happy. Despite having his own family, Monica's husband was completely captivated by his ex-girlfriend. However, the love that captivated his heart turned out to be an illusion, and as a result he lost all love. I earnestly hope that the children who were caught up in adult matters will be happy in the future without fail. That is my heartfelt wish. One's true place in those who love them. People are often driven by desires and may lose sight of them. Once lost, it becomes something fleeting that disappears. So, I want everyone to firmly find their place.